Hi guys, good night. Today is on ADHD and genetics. Welcome to episode 169. Over the past 200 years, many people have studied and described what we know now as ADHD. Yet the doctors and researchers still aren't sure the exact cause of this neurodevelopmental disorder. There are multiple factors associated with ADHD, including genetics, environment, toxin, infection, and parental risks. But none of these can be confidently labeled as the cause because there just isn't enough research to establish a direct connection or a direct correlation. ADHD is definitely multifactorial, so developing it can be dependent on a number of causes. The combination of things that could play a role in an individual case of ADHD may also be different depending on the person, as well as the environment where they grow up. Genetic expression is highly influenced by the environment. Remember that. I'll talk about it later on, but remember that. As well as its interaction with other genes. So now relate that to the perfect pitch gene and see how complicated that is if you have ADHD as well as perfect pitch. So, things like physical, chemical, social, and nutritional influences can vary widely, and that can affect the manifestation of ADHD, said one of the researchers psychiatrists. Changes in the brain. The ADHD brain functions differently from the typical brain, at least partly due to dysregulation in dopamine and neurodevelop-mental systems. Of course, dopamine, I am a dopamine craving person. Oh my God, I wake up in the morning, I have no dopamine, I'm like, anyways. Neurodevelop-mental, the change of alertness, attention, expression, is highly influenced by the environment. However, dopamine is in charge of motivation, focus, and reward processing, as well as its interaction with other genes. So things like, obviously, said before, physical, chemical, social, and nutritional influence can vary widely, and that can affect manifestation of ADHD as well. One review published said that examined neuroimaging study and found smaller volumes in certain brain regions in people with ADHD, and that includes your executive functioning area, your frontal lobe. However, one researcher pointed out brain volume did not correlate with ADHD symptom scores. She also says that not everyone with a smaller brain structure has this disorder. There is no one brain difference that is associated specifically with the presence or absence of ADHD, she said, and that is absolutely an amazing description. The role of genetics. Recent research explores how various factors like biology and environment may influence the potential for developing ADHD. The predominant theory, says one researcher, is that while environmental risk factors and non-genetic risk factors impact ADHD, it really is primarily genetic and the biology of what's going on in the brain that seems to be associated with it. And he is absolutely right on correct. The developmental disorder has what researchers call a high heritability rate. The genetic probably counts for about 70 to 80% of the variability between people who have and do not have ADHD. One of the review in molecular psychiatry explored how genes are involved in causing ADHD and concluded that certain differences in the DNA variants or regions that control how genes are expressed increase the risk for ADHD, for the executive functioning. Most likely, certain gene variations are prompting particular chemical changes in the ADHD brain, making it hard to regulate attention, emotional function, and impulses. And these researchers are definitely right on, and the research is correct over the past 15 years that I've been researching ADHD. Anyways, additionally, new studies are, I'm sorry, all right. Additionally, new studies are uncovering more of the genes that contribute to the development of this disorder. An article in Nature Genetics identified genes associated with ADHD, many of which are active during brain development. I'm going to research on the ADHD just like I did with Perfect Pitch. However, I have not yet found the exact gene that contributes to ADHD, and mainly because what I've explained before and what this article in the magazine has said, that ADHD is definitely multifactorial, and that makes it a lot harder to pinpoint the exact gene that is associated and positively correlated with ADHD, and not just due to environment. Personally, I don't believe the environment causes ADHD. Dr. Jordan Peterson says, boys need rough and tumble play. I say that to my puppies every day. I say, yeah, go have some rough and tumble play. Seriously, I do. And it became like a phrase, they know. I'm not making fun of Dr. Jordan Peterson, but I really think that, again, in many episodes that I have not discredit, but disapprove what Dr. Jordan Peterson had said about ADHD. I don't believe that boys with rough and tumble play is going to decrease the chances of developing ADHD, because ADHD is genetically related as opposed to environmental related. All right, so now let's go on. The rest you can read it, but let's just say this is really interesting. Early life exposure. What happens during pregnancy or shortly after birth is also thought to contribute to ADHD diagnosis. And I agree with that. That definitely, is a genetic factor. Research published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry suggests that an infection during pregnancy, especially one that causes a fever for the unborn child, is a risk factor for ADHD. Now, I am not sure if that's true, but I can definitely say that could alter your brain structure and the neurological development if you have a very early brain fever infection. Either while you're still a fetus or when you're born. And I do believe in that. There is also a strong association with maternal smoking, maternal obesity, and the use of acetaminophen. That is very interesting. So listen to it. I am not sure if this is right, but this is a warning, right? So everybody, well, I don't, but everybody takes acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, and ibuprofen obviously is Advil. So if this research is saying something about acetaminophen affecting people, it's not saying that ADHD is a bad thing, because for me, it's the best thing in the world, right? However, people that doesn't develop their own self-awareness as well as continued a therapy with your therapist or psychiatrist or whatever, and do some self-discovering and self-digging, you will understand what you're strong at with ADHD and what you need to improve. So the research remains ongoing. Experts agree that interaction between genetics and environment in causing ADHD is not fully understood. There is a whole lot of things contribute to the brain changes, and we call them ADHD because of the symptoms they cause. However, this might not be right. Have a great night.